Good morning, guys. This week we're looking at what's inside your body. What's inside there? What's inside you? It may surprise you to know that you're not alone. There's something else inside you besides your human cells. In fact, you have what's called a microbiome. The microbiome is a collection of all the organisms that are living inside you that are not part of you, but they're part of you, if you know what I mean. It's a little bit strange, but the fact is that you have more bacteria cells inside your body than you have human cells. And the thing is that they're good. If you didn't have them, you would be very sick. It's a normal thing to have this microbiome, and we're going to learn a little bit more about it today. The microbiome is a frontier of science. We're still learning so much about it, and there's so much more left to be learned. We know that we need these microbes inside of us, and there's lots of different types of microbes, but mostly it's bacteria. There's also some fungi and some protists. Over 10,000 of these species are bacteria. We know if we have too many of one kind or too little of another kind, we can be actually quite sick. Keeping this microbiome in balance is a priority. Microbes live all over your body, but the wetter it is, the more of them there are. That's why you have more microbes in your armpits than you do on the outside of your skin, but they all serve different purposes. The ones that you have in your armpit up here are going to be different than the ones you have back behind your knees. The ones that you have in your nose are going to be different than the ones that you have in your intestines. But why are they there? They help us. They have lots of jobs, and obviously they are doing jobs that help themselves. But along the way, they do things that benefit us. That's why our bodies keep them around. Otherwise, our body's immune system would be attacking them and trying to get rid of them. One thing they do is help our bodies extract the vitamins and nutrients we need from the food we eat. Another thing that they do is help our bodies defend against invaders that don't belong there. They actually keep us from getting sick. There's a new study out that is investigating the microbiome of your digestive system. They tested on mice eating different types of diets. One of the diets they focused on is a diet that's pretty common for most of us. A diet that is high in carbohydrates, sugars, and fats. Carbohydrates are things made from grains. When you think of carbohydrates, you want to think of grains, things that are the products of plants that grow wheat or corn or rice. We see this in things like breads, we see them in donuts, we see them in pancakes, we see them in bagels, we see them in donuts, we see them in donuts, we see them in donuts. But because carbohydrates are basically a sugar with extra parts, we're going to think about sugars being part of the carbohydrate group. So think about things like candy or lollipops or birthday cake with ice cream and frosting. Your diet is a mix of whatever you normally eat. Now, some people eat a little bit more of one thing and a little bit less of another thing, and this is something that varies from person to person, household to household, and you make decisions yourself about what you put into your diet and what you don't. So we've talked before about how muscle cells are rich in proteins, and proteins is an important part of your diet. Another important part of your diet is carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates are essentially a sugar that's wrapped in some extra packaging. It is a sugar with extra pieces. Now your body takes the carbohydrates and breaks them down. Carbohydrate is one of the first places your body goes to get energy. It breaks down the carbohydrates into getting that sugar, and then the sugar is broken down by the mitochondria in your cells that break it down and repackage it into molecules of ATP, which is energy ready to go for anything that the cell needs. You can get energy from fat too, but it takes a little bit longer of a process. Fat is more of a long-term energy storage solution. One type of bacterium called Microbiome intestinale was significantly reduced when you ate a lot of sugars, carbohydrates, and fats. They also noticed that the numbers of Microbiome intestinale increased when you did more exercising. Why is this important? Microbiome intestinale is important in breaking down those carbohydrates, breaking them down into smaller, simpler sugars that are easier for the mitochondria to process. It's interesting. It seems that the more carbohydrates you ate, the less able your body was to break them down. There was a relationship to exercise too. The more exercise you got, the more mirabaculum intestinale you got, the better able you were to break down those carbohydrates. And then finally, the researchers noticed a relationship to long-term microbiome. So a lot of these tests they did on juvenile mice. So these were young mice, not children, not babies, and not quite adults. And the effects lasted years into their adulthood. So when you develop your microbiome now, which what you choose to eat is affecting your microbiome, those effects will last you for years into the future. You have control over your future. Have a great day, guys.